Hey there, this is Anne Marie, the Anti-HR HR lady, and I just wanted to leave a thought with you guys today because I've been paying a very close attention to the FAIR campaign, and it is a campaign that the Trump administration has been inflicting on Americans, all Americans. And I want you to understand that the first step to being free is believing that you can be, even in the face of all the messaging around you that says that you can't. My first step to moving abroad and leaving the United States almost 4 years ago now was first it occurring to me that that I could do it, and then empowering myself with the belief that I would do it. And this was in the face of other people who would have said that I was crazy, people who would have said that I couldn't do it, people who would ask me who I thought I was to think that I could do it. But it started with the thought that I could leave. And I remember when I had that thought, I was standing at Cape Coast Castle in Ghana. I was visiting Cape Coast Castle, which is a slave castle, for the first time. And I had been sent there by my employer to do some work in the country. And I made it a priority. The last thing I did before I left the country was I went to Cape Coast Castle. And I remember my driver taking me there, waiting for me, bringing me back. Then I grabbed my luggage and he took me to the airport from the hotel. So that was the last thing I did, but I was determined. I went from Ghana to Kenya, but I wanted to make sure that I saw that castle, and it was a life-changing thing for me. And I remember standing there looking out at the ocean that my ancestors were more than likely shipped away from, and thinking I could leave the United States. It just came to me into my mind that I could leave. And that was the beginning of the journey that ended me where I am, where I live now, and where I'm happy and at peace, was first deciding that I could. And so, I talk to a lot of people who share very difficult situations at work, and they want to leave those situations, but they feel stuck and they feel trapped. And I always tell them the first thing is, you have to believe that you can do the thing that you want to do. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do it, because no one is coming to save us, especially as Black women. We have to do the work to save ourselves because the Calvary is not coming. And so what I want to say today is that I still and deeply believe that whatever goal you have and whatever plan that you have for your life, you have to be willing to say it out loud. And so in this video, I'm going to actually say one of my plans and goals. Every year near the end of the year, I sit down and I write out goals and plans for my own business and things that I want to achieve with the Anti-HR consultancy. And at the end of 2024, one of the things I wrote down was that I wanted to sell 1,000 units of merchandise, right? And I'm wearing one of my favorite pieces of merchandise right now, and that I wanted to sell 1,000 units. And I wrote it down, but I never really said it out loud. And so I'm saying it out loud now, that is something I want to accomplish. And I want to accomplish it not because of the amount of money that I want to make, because it wasn't really a financial goal I was writing. It was a business goal, something that I wanted to achieve to make a certain amount of impact. Because from the time that election happened last year, I knew that things were going to become very difficult for all Americans, but especially for Black Americans and Black women in particular, especially in the workplace. And so I wanted to remind us, as those things happen, that we still have the power to change our lives. And I see already the FAIR setting in, people making negotiations to settle for mistreatment. I already see some Black people trying to convince us that we should be out marching and that we should be out putting our bodies on the line once again for democracy and freedom for America. And frankly, that means for white America. And I want to for me, this shirt is about, and the t-shirts and the coffee mugs that I've designed is about reminding us that we don't need to do that. That this time we need to take a different path as Black people, and especially as Black women. And as I said before, I believe that path is the path of economic resistance. The one thing I truly and deeply believe is that in order to teach rich racist people a lesson, you have to make them poor. And with over $1 trillion of spending power that Black Americans have in America, we have the power to do that if we do it in an intentional manner. And so we do not need to go march with them. We do not need to go lay down on the ground with them. And watching them protest a week or so ago confirmed that for me. Because as I posted in my community, something someone said as they observed, and I was discussing this with a relative, and we were saying the same thing, is that they were not marching for rights and freedom for everyone. That's not why those people were out there marching. They were out there marching because something was taken away from them and they wanted it back, whether it's their social security, their federal job, whatever it was. They still don't get it. They still don't understand conceptually that if everyone is not free, they will never be free. So they're willing to protest and march to get back whatever it is that they want, but they don't see the necessity for ensuring that everybody has equal rights. They don't see that necessity. They just want back. They want hands off their social security and hands off their federal job and hands off, but not hands off equal rights for everyone, not hands off DEI, not hands off things that are going to benefit everyone. They still don't get that if they are willing, if they want to save the country, they have to save it for everybody. And so I really want us to remember that we have to mind our business. We have to mind our business. And that doesn't mean sitting at home and doing nothing. And I don't believe that Black people are sitting at home and doing nothing. We're just not coming outside to do what they want us to do. And you can also already see them, getting resentful and angry because they can't make us do what they want us to do. But I want to encourage us to continue to mind our business, to continue to be very intentional about how we spend our money. I want to really encourage us to spend our money intentionally with Black businesses, spend our money intentionally with companies that are not trying to harm us, right? And this is not a time to just sit home and do nothing and be miserable. I really would encourage us to take up gardening. Is one of the last things I did before I left was I started gardening, and I think it really kept me sane, number one, during COVID. And number two, it showed me how important it was to eat healthy, because once I started eating things out of my backyard, I realized how unhealthy even some of the fruits and vegetables that I was buying in the grocery store was. And so even when the grocery stores and everything were encouraging everyone to come back, I kept primarily eating food that I was growing in my yard. And so I really encourage us as a community to start growing food, to start gardening. It's very relaxing mentally. And it's and what you grow is going to be the most healthy thing that you eat. And I was growing everything under the sun. One of the things I actually miss now where I live in Mexico is gardening, because I travel so much that I can't mind a garden. And the climate here, I still haven't figured. I live in a drier climate, so I still haven't figured out what I can grow and I can't grow here. I grow herbs, but I really don't grow anything else. And when I was growing during COVID, I was growing everything. I was growing zucchini and cucumbers, lettuce, tomatoes, multiple varieties of tomatoes, okra, potatoes, garlic, you name it, and I had it in pots. I had a whole potted garden in my backyard filled with vegetables, string beans, French string beans, every type of thing that I wanted to eat, I grew it in my yard. If I thought of something I wanted to eat, I grew it. I grew watermelons, I grew strawberries. It was wonderful. And so I really think that we need to, as a community, start growing our food, sharing our food with each other. I was freezing things during the winter from the year before. It was great. So from 2020 to 2021, I was primarily eating food that I was growing myself. And so I really encourage us to consider doing these kinds of things as a community. I joined a Black gardening group, and we would share tips and things with each other in the neighborhood that I lived in DC. When I decided to leave, I gave away most of my gardening equipment to people in that group. They came by and picked it up. So it's a way to be in community with people that look like you, and it's also a way to protect your health. The other thing that I really would like us to keep in mind is that anything the government tries to discourage you from doing is what you should be doing. So right now I see a very intentional push to scare people into not traveling. I think that now is the time Black people should be traveling, right? We should be going out and exploring the rest of the world and looking at what our options are. Even if you don't want to move and you don't want to leave, you still should travel. Traveling is what made me realize all the lies that I had been told as an American living in America, was when I started traveling. So I want to really encourage us to open up our minds to traveling. I as you go with a group, go individually, go however you want to go, but go. I'm getting ready to take some time off again and go off on another adventure. I will be going to the continent. I'll share more about it when I get back. If you follow me on my travel channel, then you'll probably learn more about my trip as well. But I really think it's important for us to travel, especially now, and not to allow the forces to scare us into staying in the country. The American travel industry is going to take a big hit this year. People are not going to visit the United States, and rightly so. But that doesn't mean as an American that you cannot travel. And so don't allow the government to scare you into staying in the country, because that's the intent, right? And so I strongly recommend that we as Black people travel far and wide as often as possible. Obviously use a Black travel agent. I'm a travel advisor, and there are lots of Black travel advisors out there. If you want to go somewhere, make sure that you are, paying someone, a travel advisor that knows what they're talking about and has been somewhere and is also Black. Support Black businesses. This is the most important thing that we can do. Whether you buy a t-shirt from me or you go buy a beautiful designer dress from Andrea Yama, who's like right now my favorite Black, not just favorite Black designer, favorite designer, period. Support Black businesses. Support your neighbors, support your friends, support your family, support your community. Okay? Start a garden, share vegetables with your family and your neighbors. Teach people who don't know how to garden. Things like this is very important right now. It's very important for us to mind our business. And we have lots and lots of business to mind. We need to pay attention to what's happening in the government and pay attention to things that might impact us and have plans for how we're going to respond to it. But we need to leave the marching and the protesting to them. Let them go and lay down. You notice how there was no issues with the police. The police were closing roads and diverting traffic for them and treating them the way that the police are supposed to treat people who protest. But if we had shown up, it would have been a whole different story. So it's really important for us to stay out of the protesting, stay out of the marching, continue to economically resist, continue to keep as much of our resources inside of our neighborhoods, right? And support our community, support Black businesses, and mind our business. And so I really have been thinking about this a lot because I've been paying attention to a lot of the coverage in the news and what people are talking about. And I see the narrative shifting, saying, oh, we need to do something. Yes, we do need to do something, and we should be doing things right now. Minding your business does not mean not doing anything, but it means that you're focusing your attention on your community and inside of your community. And so I encourage us to continue to do that. It's very important. I will be still sharing communications with you guys and sharing videos while I'm traveling. I'm pre-recording a lot of content, so I'll be sharing it while I'm gone, but it probably will be pre-recorded content that you will be seeing. I will be still reading comments, but probably not responding very much. I'll probably be more active in my community. While I'm traveling, I will continue to be active inside of the AntiHR community. So if you're not a member of that community, I please encourage you to join. It really allows me to share content and information in a more free way than I do on YouTube and other social media platforms. And so I really do hope that more of you will join. I have a huge goal for that as well. I want to have at least 1,000 members in the community by the end of the year. And it's a big goal, and I'm nowhere near it right now, but that's my goal as well, is that I want to grow a community where I can share a lot more information in that community and know that it is still going to make an impact because of the number of the members. So if you have not yet joined the community, you can start by subscribing, which is completely free, and then you can join the community by picking a membership option. Based on your membership option, you will have access to lots of different kinds of content inside the community. It is only $12 a month to join as an annual member. So I would really encourage you to consider joining as an annual member. I hope that this message resonates with some of you and gives you something to think about. Visualize and speak your goals into existence. If you want to leave a job, say so out loud, write it down, and then create a plan and a strategy for doing it. If you feel that you want to leave a job because of discrimination, please book a discovery call and talk to me about it, and I will try to help you to think through what your strategy might look like based on your situation. But the first step is believing that you can, and you can. The first step is visualizing your goal and saying it out loud, and then taking the necessary steps to make what you dream of real. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, HR is not your enemy, but it's definitely not your friend. But I am. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.